welcome to Hyundai Power Products. My name's Adrian and today we're going to be looking at this HYVI10030 vacuum cleaner. So this is a great bit of kit this. It's a wet and dry vacuum cleaner, so it does both wet and dry vacuuming. It has a 100 litre tank and a 3 kilowatt motor, so it really is a powerful thing. So I've just pulled it out of its packaging and you can see how really well packaged this thing is. So I've removed all the protective packaging and the odd bits and pieces that were not in the drum. If you lift up the two tabs on the side and remove the motor, and the main filter, you'll see that a lot of the components are down inside the drum. So I've laid the contents of the packaging out on the table here so you can see what you're getting. Obviously, first of all, we have the main unit itself, which is here. Obviously the vacuum hose and the two-part stainless steel hose here. We have the rear axle, a little bit of assembly needed. The two casters for the front of the unit, again some assembly needed with 3 screws. The brush attachment, the nozzle attachment, the wet brush attachment which has the grey rubber, and the dry attachment which obviously has the bristles. The foam sock which we use for wet vacuuming, and the main filter bag which we use for dry vacuuming. And finally we have the user manual. Now I do recommend that you read the manual thoroughly before use. So I'm going to pick the unit up on the table to demonstrate putting the wheels on. The simplest way to do this is for me to remove the weight by opening the clips, and I'll take the vacuum unit away and just lift up the drum. Okay, obviously that makes it a lot lighter and a lot more manageable. So if you look at the back of the drum, you've got these 2 knobs here. I'm going to unscrew these. I'm going to remove them fully, just temporarily. So having removed the 2 bolts, that will allow me to lift the drum away. There we are. They just pop out and I can lift the drum away completely from the base. So we're going to fit the axle into place here on the bottom edge, and you'll see the little half round cutouts that the axle fits into. And again, there's a hole here and a hole here, which screws are going to go into when we pass them through the holes in the axle. So I'll just pass it through that hole, put the axle in place. I'll just start that screw with my fingers. Same with the one this side. And I can drive the 2 screws down into place with a crosshead screwdriver. That's the one. Nearly there. And that's the second one. And that's the rear axle in place. You will notice this chain hanging from here. It's to discharge static onto the ground. As you have a steel drum, you may get a build-up of static electricity, and this is to keep it discharged so that you don't get a static shock. So that's why the little chain. So really simple this, we have the 2 casters and we have a hole either side on the front. You simply locate the hole and the caster together and push it firmly into place. So that's one. They are good fit, these, and that's the second one. And there we are, that's the casters fitted. So that's the casters fitted on the front and the axle fitted on the back. Okay, so we can put the drum back on now. I just lifted the drum, dropped it back into place. We can put the 2 hand wheels back in again. So one started and we'll screw them back home. Isn't strictly necessary to take the drum off, it just makes it lighter. Okay, that's the drum back in place and all the wheels on. So let's look at setting it up for dry use first of all. That's not on liquids, that's purely to be used as a vacuum cleaner for dry use. So with nothing in the drum, we're going to need the big filter. And that simply drops into the drum, and that's the drum prepared. Now we look at the motor. So as you can see, for dry use, we're going to be using this large black and white pleated filter. The one with the pleats in it, and again, that's for dry use. This will come fitted to your unit when it arrives to you, so that's the one you need for dry use. So, taking care not to trap the cable, we'll place it in place, lining up the sides so that the clasps can be fitted. So that's that one, and then one on the other side, and that's that one. So the main hose, or the grey hose, connects directly onto the front of the unit. You'll see two little lugs, one on either side. They line up with these slots. You put it in, turn it clockwise, and it locks it in place. So if you look at the two tubes, the straight tube has this bulge on it here, and the bent tube has a bulge on it here. You line up the two bulges, as you can see they lined up here, and push the two tubes. So be sure to get this right, because once you push them home hard together, they're going to be very difficult to get apart. So yes, the two grooves go together and line up together. So again, on the straight part of the shaft, on the end of the straight part, goes the brush in this case, which is the Bristol brush for dry use. So that's the Bristol brush and the handle, and again they will simply connect straight onto the end of the main vacuum hose. So that will be the setup for dry vacuuming. Again, if you want to use one of the accessories, the brush is designed to fit straight on the end of the hose, or you can fit the fine nozzle for dry vacuuming as well. So let's move on to the setup for wet use. So again, I'm going to take the motor off by opening the two clamps, and I'm going to lift the motor up and away. So for wet use, we do not use the filter, so there's absolutely nothing in the drum. So completely empty, as you can see. So next we need to completely remove this filter. You'll see a bar on the bottom. If you turn it anti-clockwise, the filter and float unit will come away. And this is the point where we can remove the pleated filter completely. That just leaves us with the float unit. So now we can take the foam sock that came with the vacuum, and we'll fit the foam sock down and around the outside of the float unit. It's quite simple, only takes a few seconds. We'll put it right down to the bottom, making sure that it's not tucked up at all. And then we simply put the whole unit back on, turn it clockwise, and that's it set up with the foam sock filter ready for wet use. So now that that's on, we can replace the motor back onto the drum and do up the two clips. So again, for wet use, we'll remove the brush attachment and we can fit the rubber squeegee attachment. Connect the broom back on to the main outlet hose, and that would be the setup for wet use. You could also use the narrow pickup for wet use as well. As you can see, I've placed some of the various accessories that come with the unit into their locations in the back of the machine for storage. And also, when it's not in use, you can wrap the power cord around these two little locations here to keep it neat and tidy. So it's all plugged in and ready to go, and as you can see, the pickup hose is really long. You have a combined distance with the power cord and the hose of 10 meters from the outlet. So finally, We have 3 switches on the top. 3 speeds basically. 1 speed, 2, 3 for maximum vacuum. So depending on how much vacuum you want to use at any one time is how many switches you switch on. 3 1 kilowatt vacuum motors, which you can switch on individually or all at once.